Madrid, Serrano Street, 8:30 p.m. In front of the starred restaurant, El Palacio Dorado, a heartbreaking scene unfolds. 3 8-year-old twin girls, dressed in worn but clean clothes, stand motionless on the sidewalk. Their bare feet tremble on the cold Madrid asphalt as they embrace each other, their eyes full of tears and dignity. The restaurant's maitre d', a man in a perfect tuxedo, has just thrown them out with cutting words. "This is no place for beggars. Leave before I call the police." The little ones, Emma, Sophia and Julia, haven't asked for money. They've only whispered with broken voices, "Please, we're hungry. Papa hasn't come back for 3 days." At that moment, a Rolls-Royce Phantom stops in front of the restaurant. From it steps Alejandro Mendoza, 42 years old, a millionaire from the Spanish tech industry, dressed in a custom suit that costs more than what many families earn in a year. He's about to enter for a €500 million business dinner when he sees the scene that will change his life forever. 3 abandoned little angels who represent everything his wealth could never buy, lost innocence and pure love. What Alejandro will discover on Madrid's sidewalks that night will force him to choose between the business deal of his life and the meaning of life itself. Alejandro Mendoza observes the scene in front of the restaurant and feels something break in his chest. The 3 twin girls embrace like a single fragile entity, their identical faces marked by a hunger that goes beyond food, hunger for security, warmth, for someone who cares about them. The restaurant's maitre d' notices Alejandro's presence and rushes toward him with a servile smile, completely ignoring the girls as if they were part of the urban furniture. "Mr. Mendoza, welcome. Your guests are waiting in the private salon. We've prepared the tasting menu you requested." But Alejandro doesn't move. His eyes remain fixed on those 3 small figures trembling in the cold Madrid night. Emma, who seems to be the oldest by a few minutes, holds the hands of the other 2 in a protective gesture that deeply moves the businessman accustomed to the halls of power. "Who are those girls?" asks Alejandro to the maitre d', his voice betraying unexpected emotion. "Nobody important, sir. 3 little beggars bothering the clientele. I've already thrown them out, but they keep coming back. I should call the police." Alejandro slowly approaches the girls, who raise toward him 3 pairs of identical eyes, large and dark like wells of sadness. They don't flee, don't extend their hands to beg for alms. They simply stand there with a dignity that many wealthy adults don't possess. "What are your names?" asks Alejandro, kneeling to be at their height, not caring that his expensive suit touches the dirty sidewalk. "Emma," whispers the first with a crystalline voice. "Sophia," adds the second, embracing her sister even tighter. "Julia," completes the third, who seems the smallest despite being identical twins. "And your parents?" The silence that follows is more eloquent than 1,000 words. Emma, clearly the one who has assumed the role of protector, responds with devastating maturity for her 8 years. "Mama went to heaven 3 months ago. Papa left 3 days ago and hasn't come back." Alejandro feels the world crumbling. 3 8-year-old girls completely alone in the world, wandering the streets of Madrid, surviving as they can. Their story tears at the heart more than any dramatic movie could. "Where do you sleep?" he asks with a soft voice. "In the park when it doesn't rain," responds Sophia. "In the metro when it rains." "And what do you eat?" "Whatever we find," says Julia with disarming simplicity. Alejandro looks toward the restaurant where his partners are, wait him to close the most important business deal of his career. Then he looks again at those 3 girls who embody absolute vulnerability. In that moment, the choice is inevitable. "Come with me," he tells them, extending his hand. "Tonight you'll eat like 3 princesses." The entrance of Alejandro Mendoza into El Palacio Dorado restaurant, accompanied by 3 barefoot girls dressed in rags, creates surreal silence. Elegant customers turn around. Waiters stop mid-stride. The maitre d' visibly pales. Alejandro heads with determination toward the private salon, where Japanese multinational executives await him to discuss the acquisition worth €500 million. Behind him, Emma, Sophia and Julia walk hand in hand, overwhelmed by the magnificence of the environment. but trusting in the protection of that elegant man who has saved them from the street. "Mr. Mendoza," stammers the maitre d', following him, "you can't bring those. Here inside, we have a dress code, standards." Alejandro stops and turns with a look that freezes blood. "These are my guests of honor tonight. If there's any problem, I can dine elsewhere and also decide not to invest €1 more in this establishment." The maitre d' swallows with difficulty and nods as Alejandro opens the door to the private salon. The Japanese executives, seated composedly around the oval table, raise their eyes in surprise, seeing the Spanish millionaire enter, followed by 3 girls who seem to have stepped out of a Dickens novel. "Gentlemen," says Alejandro naturally, "allow me to introduce my new consultants, Emma, Sofia, and Julia. Tonight we'll all dine together." The moment of confusion that follows breaks when Emma approaches the eldest Japanese executive and makes a small bow with innate grace. "Good evening, sir. Thank you for allowing us to be here." The man, visibly moved by such politeness in such difficult circumstances, smiles and returns the bow. "The pleasure is ours, little miss." During dinner, while waiters serve elaborate dishes, Alejandro observes the girls eating with discreet voracity, never vulgar, always careful not to stain themselves or make noise. Their hunger is evident, but their dignity remains intact. Sofia, the shyest of the 3, whispers to Alejandro, "This is the best food of our lives. Thank you, sir." Those simple words touch strings in Alejandro's soul that he didn't know he possessed. While the Japanese executives discuss astronomical figures, he finds himself enchanted by the girls' innocent questions, by their capacity to marvel at things he takes for granted. "This place is more beautiful than the castle in fairy tales," says Julia, looking at the crystal chandeliers. "Do you always live like this?" asks Emma with genuine curiosity. Alejandro realizes he doesn't know how to answer. He always lives like this, in a world of luxury and privilege, but he's never truly lived until this moment. These 3 girls are showing him what it means to see the world with pure eyes, not clouded by cynicism and greed. At the end of dinner, when contracts are signed and business is closed, Alejandro knows his life has changed forever. He can't abandon these girls on the street, but what he'll discover about them will shock him even more. After dinner, Alejandro takes the 3 girls to his penthouse in Cuatro Torres business area, one of Madrid's most exclusive skyscrapers. Emma, Sofia, and Julia look with wide eyes at the panoramic apartment overlooking the illuminated city, but they don't touch anything, as if afraid of breaking something precious. "You can sit wherever you want," says Alejandro gently. "This is your home for tonight." While the girls curl up all 3 on the same sofa, embracing out of habit, Alejandro calls his personal assistant. "Marco, I need you to do some urgent investigations. 3 girls, Emma, Sofia, and Julia, probably surname Garcia or something similar, parents, mother dead 3 months ago, father disappeared 3 days ago." The answer arrives 2 hours later, while the girls sleep embraced on the sofa, covered with Alejandro's jacket. The report Marco gives him takes his breath away. Emma, Sofia, and Julia Garcia, daughters of Francisco Garcia, an architect at his peak of success, and Carmen Garcia, an elementary school teacher. Tragedy struck the family like a relentless hurricane. First, Carmen's terminal cancer diagnosis, then her death after months of suffering that exhausted all the family's savings. Francisco, devastated by grief and medical debts, began drinking. He lost his job, then the house. The girls ended up on the street with him, living on handouts and charity. 3 days ago, Francisco disappeared. Neighbors say they saw him drunk, wandering toward the Manzanares, talking about reaching her, clearly referring to his dead wife. But the detail that shocks Alejandro is another. In the apartment, the Garcias' loss due to debts, drawings, and architectural projects signed by Francisco were found. Projects for a skyscraper that Alejandro immediately recognizes. It's the building where he now lives, his €20 million penthouse. Francisco Garcia had designed Alejandro Mendoza's home, and now his orphaned and homeless daughters sleep on the sofa of that same apartment their father had dreamed of and drawn. Destiny has a cruel sense of irony, thinks Alejandro, looking at the three girls who sleep peacefully for the first time in months. Tomorrow he'll have to give them the most difficult news of their young lives. Their father has been found dead in the Manzanares, drowned in the attempt to reach his wife in the only way his destroyed mind could conceive. But Alejandro has already made a decision that will forever change the course of 4 lives. A decision that has nothing to do with business logic and everything to do with love he didn't know he possessed. The next morning, Alejandro has the most difficult task, explaining to 3 girls that their papa will never return. He does it with infinite delicacy, holding them in his arms while they cry. "What will become of us now?" asks Emma through tears. "If you want, we could become a family, the 4 of us together." "Really? Can we stay all together forever? And you should know something. Your papa had designed this house. In a certain sense, it was already your house." Alejandro begins the most complex adoption proceedings of his life. His existence changes radically. He wakes up to prepare breakfast. He accompanies the girls to school. He helps them with homework. Emma shows talent for mathematics. Sofia loves to paint. Julia has an angelic voice. Alejandro discovers that being a father is the most difficult and rewarding job he's ever done. The test comes when his partners organize an intervention. "Alejandro, 3 girls are an enormous responsibility. Perhaps it would be better to place them elsewhere and return to business." Alejandro's answer is firm. "Those girls are my family now. If this is a problem, find a new CEO." No one had ever seen Alejandro Mendoza willing to risk everything for 3 orphaned girls. 6 months later, the apartment is transformed. The walls are now decorated with Sofia's drawings, Emma's awards, and photos from Julia's theater performances. Silence has been replaced by the laughter of a true family. The adoption procedures are complete. Emma, Sofia, and Julia Garcia have become Mendoza. The girls call Alejandro Papa naturally. The real surprise comes when Alejandro shows them the original project signed by Francisco Garcia. "Your papa had imagined every corner of this house. He had designed this kitchen where we have breakfast, this living room where we play." Emma delicately touches her father's drawings. "Does this mean Papa Francisco knew we would be happy here?" "I think he designed it thinking of a happy family, and now that family is us." The adoption ceremony is held at the courthouse. When the judge pronounces the official words, there isn't a dry eye in the room. That night, family dinner at El Palacio Dorado, where it all began. "Do you remember when we entered here the first time?" asks Sofia. "We were so scared," adds Julia. "Instead, we found our family," concludes Emma. Alejandro looks at his 3 daughters and knows that every sacrifice has been worth it for this moment of absolute perfection. 2 years later, the villa in Pozuelo is the theater of the most beautiful party. The 10th birthday of his 3 daughters. The garden is full of children, while Emma, Sofia, and Julia reign like 3 little princesses. Emma has become the best in mathematics. Sofia has won a painting contest. Julia is part of the school choir. But what fills Alejandro with pride is their kindness. When they see a lonely child, they invite them to play. The party's surprise comes when the girls take the stage. Emma takes the microphone. 2 years ago, we were 3 scared girls sleeping on the street. We thought we would never have a family again. Sofia continues. Then we met the kindest man in the world, who gave us a papa who loves us. Julia concludes. Today, we're no longer orphans. We're the luckiest daughters in the world. A family's love doesn't depend on blood, but on the heart. The applause is warm, but Alejandro only has eyes for his daughters who run to embrace him. That night, in the study, Alejandro looks at Francisco Garcia's projects, now framed. "Thank you, Francisco. You designed much more than a house. You designed the happiness of 4 people." Every night before sleeping, Emma, Sofia, and Julia give him their goodnight kiss, and Alejandro falls asleep, knowing that the love of a true family is the greatest treasure that exists. Because sometimes, to find the meaning of life, It's enough to open your heart to 3 girls waiting on the sidewalk for someone to show them that the world can be full of love. If this story has moved you to tears and warmed your heart, don't forget to like if you believe that a family's love can be born from the heart, not just from blood. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that celebrate the power of love and generosity. Comment below telling us, have you made a gesture that changed someone's life? Do you believe adoption is an act of pure love? Share this video with someone who needs to believe that there are still people willing to change the world, one family at a time. Remember, sometimes destiny uses the most incredible coincidences to unite people who need each other. True love knows no borders, age, or blood ties. See you in the next story that will make you believe in miracles.